We're risky like that. Good to see you guys on Instagram. I appreciate you all for tuning in tonight. Okay, it does look like we're live on Facebook. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're just now joining us, my name is Jerry. I'm the owner and founder here at Wealth Dynamics. And we're covering a topic tonight that's very important. I'm excited for it. I can't wait to share it. Now, before we do get involved with this, if you're watching tonight, I want you to share the stream. Okay, share the stream. Make sure you get it out. The information that I'm giving you tonight is free. I don't charge for it. Literally, probably no one else is covering what I'm about to cover tonight. And so because of that, if you see the value in it, I want you to share it, get it out there so as many of your friends and family as you can see it as well. So I'm talking about something I came up with. Actually, I thought of this probably 2 weeks ago, and I want to share with you guys. It's called the 5P's of wealth. Okay, the 5P's, and that's hang on just a second here. That's a method that we're going to cover tonight that goes over 5 points that I want all of us to keep in mind when it comes to wealth building. Now, a little bit about me. Let me make sure I got this recording going. A little bit about me. Again, I own a company called Wealth Dynamics. And so what we do is we help people simplify their money so that they can keep more of it, stop losing it, stop giving it to financial institutions that are going to either keep it their entire lives or hold it till they're 60. And then we're going to be too old to use it anyways. So that instead we can use it now to build wealth. That's the purpose of what we do. And so I'm currently 27. Okay, 27 years old. I run a company called Wealth Dynamics. And so at the age of 27, I've been able to make it into the top 1% of income earners, have a higher net worth than $1 million already, employ several people in my company, have about half of my income coming in passively right now. And this is all at age 27. And this is not bragging. There's probably people younger than me that have done it. And it's not even close to where I plan on being. But I do realize at my age, I have accomplished something financially that most people never do. And so I want to share with you guys what I'm doing, who I'm following, because this isn't all stuff I came up with. And I want to share with you guys what I think you should be doing and what I'm teaching to my clients as well. Okay, so let me share my screen really quick for those of you that are on Zoom. Let's share this up. And I'm going to dive into this. So this topic tonight, it's called the 5P's. All right, the 5P's. Here we go. Boom. So the 5P's of wealth, this came from a lot of thinking and a lot of frustration that I had when it came to money. So growing up, as you guys might know with my story, my parents were never good with money. I think at the age of 7, I watched all in the same summer. I watched my parents get divorced, watched our house get foreclosed on, watched my mom's car get repoed, and then moved into literally a trailer in some guy's backyard and was homeless the entire summer as well, living in a tent with my dad. That was all like one year, right? And so that was kind of like a weird scene. And I didn't have a great understanding of money. I didn't realize that my parents didn't either. It was one of those things where I just didn't know any different. And so essentially growing up, like I didn't have a good relationship with money. It was not something that I was familiar with. It was something that caused a lot of emotional pain in my life. It caused a lot of resentment in my life. It caused a lot of conflict in my life. So it was something I avoided. And so I made the decision that, hey, I'm never going to involve myself with money, and I actually made that decision so well that when I first got married to Lexi, and you can ask her, we were homeless. we were actually squatting in an abandoned house for about 4 or 5 months because we didn't have any money. Like literally, we were going to buy our groceries one week by going to GNC, stealing protein powder out of their dumpster, which is super unethical, returning it back to them like we'd purchased it so that we can get $30 and go buy food with it. That was our plan that week. I think we threw it out, but we had a blackboard that said, return protein to GNC and cash in quarters at the bank. Like that was legit our to-do list to make enough money to pay our bills that week. So I've been in a position where I wasn't working. I've been in a position where I had nothing saved. I've been in a position where I was ashamed to admit where I was financially. And I didn't, my family had no idea when that was happening because it was so bad that I didn't want to tell them that that's where I was. Okay, if you've ever been in a spot like that, I want to see some hearts, some likes, where you're like, man, my situation, like I got myself here and I don't even want to let anyone know how bad it is because it's too embarrassing to share. That's where I was. So polar opposite, now I start looking at, okay, apparently I am going to be involved in money whether I decide to and agree with it or not. Like it's not up to me. The economy is there. Bills have to be paid. If I want to live life, I have to be able to cover all that stuff. So I can either struggle, I can be homeless, or I can go build wealth. And so I chose the third one. I'm going to go build wealth. I realized that the best way to not be impinged on by money is to have so much of it that I literally don't have to give a crap. I don't think about it before I buy something. I don't wonder before I give it to someone whether I'm going to have enough left for me. I don't live my life based on my paycheck. That's what I decided. I'm going to go for that. So I started studying, what do you actually do? How do people get there? The immediate answers that I came up with was, well, you pay off all of your debt. Okay, not actually true, but this is what I came up with. You pay off all your debt, you invest in your 401k, you put everything in the Roth IRA, you buy a house, pay it off, and try and get done by the time you're 60. So I was aggressively pursuing that. I was like, okay, this is the plan. This is what I'm doing. This is where I'm going. And I pursued it so aggressively that I actually became very passionate about that plan and became a financial advisor. Okay, so I started teaching others this plan. Let's pay off all of your debt. Let's invest in the 401k. Let's put money in your Roth. Let's buy a house. Let's pay it off by the time you're 60, and you'll be retired by then, and life will be just great. Okay, that was my plan. This was probably maybe 2012, 2013-ish when I started doing this. Now, like I said, I became a financial advisor. One of my clients was my mom, my very first client. Okay, and so I'm doing this plan, right? Let's get you financially free and retired by your 60. By the time you're 60, let's do all this stuff. And so I start working on that plan with her. And what happened in my life, and it was a very big and sobering moment for me, was my mom died of cancer at 60. She was diagnosed. 6 months later, she was dead. Okay, passed away from colon cancer. And I was her financial advisor. And that was very sobering for me to realize, okay, this thing that I just based my life off of and I'm teaching to all of these people, I just watched it not work in the biggest way possible with my mom. Insane. Like that literally just like it completely like tore my mind out of my head, stomped on it, put it through a blender and stuck it back in. And I didn't know what to do from there. Okay. So naturally I didn't have anything different to do. As people, we stick with what's familiar. So I was like, okay, all right, that was awkward. And hopefully that doesn't happen again. I'm going to just keep doing this. And I started actually realizing these little hints would come up. I started realizing that wealthy people don't actually follow that plan. Believe it or not, they don't put money in their 401k plan. Believe it or not, they don't try and pay off their house. Believe it or not, they don't invest in a Roth IRA. They're not trying to be debt free. They're looking at one thing and one thing only. Okay, for those of you guys that have seen, what is that, Blades of Glory? We dance to one song and one song only. But that was what I was looking at. They look at one thing and one thing only. They're looking at passive income. It's exceeding expenses, savings, and taxes. That's all they're focused on. Passive income exceeding expenses, savings, and taxes. When I realized that, the game changed. Because I was no longer trying to pay things off. I was no longer trying to invest in my stock market gear with the 401k and the Roth IRA. I was no longer trying to purchase a house and pay it down. I was literally, me and Lexi almost bought a house that summer when I learned all this stuff. And thankfully we didn't, because we learned it just in time. And I was like, man, I would never do that now. Right? So I want to share with you what I came up with on the back end of this, because the strategy that I built is called the blueprint. And it's something I work with my clients on, where we focus on a 12-step plan to build wealth and get them financially independent. But these are the 5 P's that have to be there for any of that mechanic stuff to work. Right? Like the premise of there has to be a plan. There has to be something that actually works. There has to be something that's proven. There has to be a recipe, if you will. Right? If I'm going to go make brownies, like I can't wing it. And if I don't put the right ingredients in, I shouldn't be shocked when there's not brownies. Right? But if I have a recipe, it's not going to randomly be steak. Like that would never happen. Right? So we have to have that. But these are also factors that when I looked at, I was like, man, this is critical for people to know. And it's called the 5 P's of wealth. Okay. The 5 P's of wealth. On Instagram, I have someone that said, is it the proper preparation prevents poor performance? So it's not actually that, it's different. Okay, so the 5 P's of wealth, I want to show you guys what this actually is. So the first one here is the process. Okay, the process, that's the first P. If you guys are taking notes, I want you to take notes on this. The first P is the process. Okay, the process meaning the system. Like I mentioned, there's that recipe. Okay, am I following the right processes that lead to financial success statistically and historically? Now, I worded this way on a very specific reason. Okay, the first thing is, am I? It's a self-inspection. Okay, I have to look at where am I at? Where am I at with my finances right now? Where am I at with my finances right now? If I'm not where I need to be, and I'm not on my way to where I need to be, and I'm not making progress on the goals I have, this is just my own viewpoint. Take it if you want it, leave it if you don't like it. If I am not making progress, then I am personally doing something invalid, meaning that the way I think doesn't work. The way I operate isn't valid. The thoughts that I have and the opinions I have don't matter, because if they were real, they would be getting me over where I wanted to go right now. Since they're not, they're 100% invalid. Now, that's not me saying that's your belief, that's my belief. That's the way I started thinking, because I looked at, I had a moment where I was building my business. I was flying down from Alaska to Minnesota every 2 weeks, down and back, down and back. And I had this moment where I flew down on a one-way ticket just due to circumstances. I had the opportunity, I'm going to call it that, where I had to close a sale to be able to buy my plane ticket home. My hotel room was going to expire 3 days from then. My rental car was due 2 days from then, and I had no money in the bank. And it was February in Minnesota, and I knew nobody. So I had the prospects of being homeless in Minnesota if I didn't close a sale. And I remember sitting there and kind of feeling bad for myself. Right? I remember sitting there and thinking like, man, like this sucks. Like, how does this always happen to me? I just need a break. If I could just get, that one little break so I can finally make progress, because something always seems to happen and my mom died and all this. And that was the mindset I had at the time. And I started to realize, all right, so this is the result of what I've created. Potentially homeless in a hotel room. And it's not the first time I've been on the verge of homelessness. So this is apparently a recurring cycle for me. And I had to really confront my opinions, my viewpoints, my attitude, the way that I do things, the way I handle money are wrong. Period. If they were right, I wouldn't be almost homeless in a hotel room right now. If they were right, I wouldn't be broke. If they were right, I wouldn't have no money in the bank right now. If they were right, I would have more invested. So that was the process I had to go through, excuse me, mentally, to realize like, dude, I'm just not following the right recipe. There's a better way of doing things. Apparently, I don't know about it. The one that I think I know about, that I'm very emotionally attached to, doesn't work. Okay. So the right process is this, guys. And these aren't all of the steps on the process. Like I said, the blueprint is really what you need to be looking at. If you want to look at that, by the way, go to jerryfetta.com/info. You can download the blueprint graphic for free there. That's yours to keep, no cost. But the basic premise is that I have to have income greater than expenses. That's the first part of the process. Like if we're making brownies, this is like have the box of brownies so you actually can freaking read what's on the back of it. If I don't have income greater than expenses, I am not in business. Okay, and I say business like metaphorically, like I'm not saying you have to be an entrepreneur. If I'm an employee and my income is not greater than my expenses, I'm screwed. Wealth will never happen for me. So I've got to look at, how do I get my income greater than my expenses? Now, I understand for some of us right now, this might feel kind of raw because a lot of us aren't working. Okay, if we're not able to go to work right now, then our income is not greater than our expenses. And I'm here to tell you that as unfortunate as that is, it does not change the mathematics. As bad as that sucks, it does not change the mathematics. And feeling bad for myself in that position is not going to fix anything either. Talking about how I'm not an essential employee and how this sucks and it's the government's fault or it's China's fault or whoever's fault, like that's not going to make my income greater than my expenses. At the end of the day, money is mathematical. It does not care about my emotions. It does not care about my story. It does not care about why I am where I'm at. It cares about, did the numbers pan out the way they needed to? And if they didn't, that sucks. Math it's not going to come and like cook the books for me to suddenly make the numbers different. So my income has to be greater than my expenses. It's no different than breathing. right? Key to life, I've got to be able to breathe. If I can't breathe, then I'm dead. So if I find out that I'm not breathing, I'm going to do everything in my living power to breathe. Income is that for money. If I'm not earning income, I literally should be fighting tooth and nail and hustling and doing every single thing that I humanly possibly can to get income. And if I'm not, I'm actually willingly letting myself die, financially speaking. Okay. So that's the first part of the process. So the first P is process. The first part of that process is income must be greater than expenses. Second part of that process is I need to save 40% of my gross income. 40% of my gross income. I'm going to repeat that a third time. I need to save 40% of my gross income. This is not my rule. This comes from the top 1%. It's part of the ingredients. So if I'm looking at, again, the premise of I'm trying to build wealth and financial freedom, I'm telling you for the last 100 years, that's what they've done. They have saved 40% of their gross income. If there's one thing I can recommend anyone does, it's do that. Just try and do that. If you just try and do that, guess what? Your income will have to go up. Your expenses will have to go down. You'll have to become more conscious of your finances. You'll have to invest more. You'll have to spend more time on personal development. You'll have to do a lot more work and put in a lot more time to get to that number. Those are all byproducts of getting to be able to save 40% of my income. Now, this is not a forever and never live on the money, never enjoy it thing. This is if I do this probably for the next 10 to 15 years, I'm done. I'm financially free. I can ring the bell. I've crossed the finish line and I'm finished having to trade time for money. Or the alternative is if I do 5 or 10 or 15%, then I'm going to work till I'm 60 and then die old and I'm going to maybe have a few $1,000,000 to have fun with when I'm a senior citizen. That's not the second plan is not the one that I teach people. I teach the first one. Let's do this for 10 to 15 years and let's just be done. Okay, that's it. Now, that's the second part. Now, the third part is I must earn 8 to 12% of my investments. That's part of the process. It's not a volatile investment. It's cash flow that I'm looking for. Okay. Because again, we said the thing that I'm looking for is I'm looking for income that's passive that exceeds my expenses, my savings, and my taxes. Okay, a 401k doesn't pay passive income. A mutual fund doesn't pay passive income. Stocks don't pay passive income. I've got to look at the investments that do. Okay. And if I'm not in agreement with this plan, I'm watching the webinar right now. Like go to Edward Jones. They'll sell you a mutual fund. You can wait till you're 60. That plan totally is their plan. They'll help you with that. I'm saying that that's not how wealthy people have done it. And I'm not going to lie to you and say that it is. It's just not how wealthy people have done it. So 8 to 12% returns on my investments. I'm looking for cash flow. The next part of the process is spend less than 25% of my income on housing. Okay, these are like bullet points, like filters. Okay, so I'm saving 40%. My income is greater than my expenses. I'm investing in things that pay me 8 to 12% in passive income. I'm spending less than 25% of my income on housing. And that one, that's the reason why they're not saving 40%, because they're spending 35% on housing. Okay, like that has to be in. That's part of the process. And then the final one that I put here is I pay myself first. Pay myself first. It's one of those cliche phrases, and it's funny as an economic advisor, as a wealth coach, I see people that think they're doing that. I used to be one of these people where I was like, yeah, I totally understand the value of pay yourself first. It means that I need to make sure I save every month and that money comes out first. Yet in practical application, what's really happening is I spend all my money and I just have a lot left over at the end of the month. And I take my leftovers and I put that over there. That's not paying myself first. That's paying myself last. Paying myself first means 10 grand came in, 4,000 came off the top before I ever got to pay my bills and cover my taxes. And I've got to go deal with life with only $6,000 now. That's pay myself first. That is a level of commitment to wealth. That is literally tying a rope to my waist, tying the other side of the rope to the back of the car and telling them drive. That's how I'm going to learn how to run fast. Okay, I'm putting myself in a position where I have to. I have no choice but to do it. Right? Because if I don't, nothing's going to change. If I was going to save 40% of my income and I would already be doing it. So if I don't put myself in a position where I have to, it's not going to happen. Okay. Real quick, Business Cordova, I want to shout out to him. He said he ordered the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, because of my post. That's awesome. I think this might be Brian Cordova. If it is, what's up, Brian? I hope you enjoyed that book. If you're watching, I highly recommend that book. So again, guys, process, that's the first P. I have to follow the process. If I do not follow the process, I can't be shocked when I lose. It's not a negotiable thing. The process is the process. Okay. Next one is postulates. Okay. I have to have the right postulates. What is a postulate? Okay. What is a postulate? That's not a word most of us have heard. Okay. A postulate is when I make a mental decision to do something and then follow it through with action. It's my own consideration of how things are going to be backed up by me making them that way. This is not Think and Grow Rich. This is not the law of attraction. This is me. Everyone's had this. It's a necessity thing. Who has had the thought, this has to change, and then it did because you changed it? That's a postulate, meaning I planted the seed with thought because of my own decision, my own consideration, and then I followed it through with action until it became reality. That's my postulate. Most people don't even realize they have postulates. They're broke because they had postulates about being broke. I've been there. Okay. The postulate is, what if I don't have enough money this month? Guess what? That then would exactly happen. The postulate is, what if I can't save? Guess what? That's exactly what would happen then. I would make sure that I was right. I can't save. The postulate was, what if the car breaks down and it wipes out my emergency fund? Guess what? That was my postulate. That's exactly what I made happen. I have to change my postulates. I can't be following the recipe. Like, think about it again with the brownies thing. Like, if I'm baking brownies and I'm following the recipe and the entire time I'm like, man, I'm going to screw this up. I just know these brownies are going to be terrible. What if it doesn't work? What if I drop the eggs in the batter? Like imagine you being a customer at my restaurant and you knew I was the chef and you heard me talking like that in the kitchen. There's no way in hell you would eat my brownies. You'd be like, dude, like just the amount of negativity coming off of me mentally and out of my words on what I'm going to do to these brownies, you would want no part in them. Okay. That's a postulate. Am I thinking thoughts that align with me building wealth, deciding on them, and then making them real with action? Okay. Am I thinking thoughts? Now, the postulates thing, like this is a very thin veil between real actual stuff that happens in the mind and then turns into reality, and then also the other side of that fine line being just a bunch of psychobabble, emotionalism, mysticism. Like, we're not going to get into that side of things. This is literally, like it says, am I thinking thoughts? First thing, let's ask ourselves, are all of us thinking thoughts? Yes, we all are. At all times of the day, we are all always thinking thoughts. There's nothing mystic about that. That is what happens day in and day out. The next part is thoughts that align with me building wealth. Okay, now we're getting a little bit more tricky. Am I thinking thoughts? Yes, I'm always thinking thoughts, but are they thoughts that align with me building wealth? That's a harder question to answer. For me, it's not always yes. It's a lot more yes than it used to be. When I first got started, I can't even tell you how negative my self-talk was, how negative my postulates were, how negative my attitude and disposition was, how much I was self-sabotaging with the I suck, man, I screwed it up again. This is never going to happen. This is taking too long. What if it doesn't work? What if I'm wrong? Should I just go get a job? Should all of this questioning and doubting, that's postulates. And I'm telling you that that's actually something that we all control. Okay. This is an acronym that I learned. It's called STFAR, STFAR. This is how it all works. Okay. It's an acronym. The S stands for spirit. Okay. Spiritual condition causes thoughts. That's the T, STFAR, STFAR. Spiritual conditions cause thoughts. You can call it programming, if you will. I believe it's spiritual condition, programming, whatever you want to call it. That causes my thoughts. Okay. My thoughts then cause feelings. This is now biological. It's called the endocrine system. We all have glands in our bodies that secrete hormones into the bloodstream. And the reaction we have based on those hormones is 100% involuntary. You don't have a choice at that point. It's like a drug addict. Okay. So when I have a certain programming or spiritual condition that keeps on thinking certain thoughts, and those thoughts keep triggering my endocrine system to elicit chemicals into my blood that make me full of anger or doubt or grief, then it influences my actions. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go do things that line up with my emotions. I feel this way. I'm going to go do this. Guess what? Actions yield results. I'm going to look at my results. Again, STFAR, spirit, thought, then goes to feelings, then goes to actions, then goes to results. I'm going to look at my results and then validate and say, see, I was right. And then I'm going to keep doing the same stupid shit. That's what happens with postulates. I cannot build wealth if I don't change my postulates. If I don't start making different thoughts and decisions and aligning my action up with decisions that actually get there. It's like you guys have probably seen sports, right? Sports, there's the star player, and then there's always that guy that somehow he did make it on the team, but he just sits on the bench the entire game. He doesn't ever play it up. He's not a star. He's not popular. He might be well known because he's the guy that sits on the bench all the time. But at the end of the day, like, he doesn't actually achieve anything. That guy has the wrong postulates. Okay, it's the postulate of like, man, I never get in the game. Then he makes himself feel that way. Then he makes himself act in ways that never get him in the game. Then he has reactions in his universe that cause him to never get in the game. And then he validates his own thought saying, see, I was right. I never get in the game. That's exactly how it works. What's up, Rich? Good to see you. I hope you got my text today, by the way. I'm gonna get you taken care of, man. That's postulates, guys. So I have to change those. This, again, I want to just make sure we draw the line here. This is not mysticism. This is not law of attraction. This is literally, I decided I was thirsty. I felt thirst. So I picked up my water bottle and I drank it. And then I acknowledged the fact that, man, I was thirsty. I better do that again next time I'm thirsty. So my point is, the first P was process. If I'm trying to build wealth, I have to follow the right process. But here's the deal. You guys ever watch Winnie the Pooh when you were a kid? You can't give Eeyore the process and expect him to win. Like, if you're, oh man, it's never going to work. I just can't do it. Like, it doesn't matter what the recipe is. You're not going to get there. I've been in that spot. Chat, change the postulate. Okay, the next one we're looking at, the next P is power. Okay, so we want to build wealth. We need process. Am I following a proven process? What are my postulates like? That's the second P. Third P is power. How are my freaking energy levels, man? This kind of goes back to the Eeyore thing, right? How are my energy levels? Am I acting with power and enthusiasm towards my finances, or am I being limp and stagnant? Okay, what does that even look like, right? So power and enthusiasm. Finances are composed of a couple things. Let me just reposition myself here. They're composed of a couple things. We have income. Income comes from working, in case you didn't know. Okay, but income comes from working. And I want to actually point out this meme I saw. This guy posted this week. It was hilarious. I cracked up when I saw it. He said, so the meme showed, the $1,200 stimulus check. And he's like, man, if $1,200 changes your life, you should really try working. I died when I saw that. But that's the thing, is that working is directly linked to my income. What's my power level with working? Okay, am I acting towards my work with power and enthusiasm, or am I just showing up and I'm going through the motions and I've got no spry step, I've got no energy, I've got no fire in my belly? Like, man, I'm just going to show up and do my 8 hours, and then I'm going to go home and smoke weed and play Xbox the rest of the day, and that's it. That's not going to build wealth. That will never build wealth. I have to have power and energy. So when I'm earning, I have to have power and energy behind that. That means I come to work freaking ready to go. And if I can't, then I need to look at, why am I acting this way towards my work, right? The second part of finances is saving. Am I acting with power and enthusiasm towards my savings? Am I looking at savings as an exciting thing that I get to do that is the very linchpin to build wealth? Or am I looking at it as a liability where I'm like, well, if I save it, I can't spend it. And I want to spend it, so should I really save it? Like, that's not going to help me. I have to have power behind that. That's the 40% rule. That's the pay yourself first mentality. That's the sacred account. Power and enthusiasm, same thing with investing. Okay, power and enthusiasm in investing does not look like, all right, I don't know what to do here, so I'm going to give it to you. Like, that's the opposite. Could you imagine, like, when I think power and enthusiasm, I think about Muhammad Ali in a boxing match. Could you imagine watching him walk into the ring and being like, man, I don't know what to do in this fight, so I'm going to go ahead and just step out and let you do it? Like, no, that's not going to work, right? You think about baseball, right? One of my favorite analogies, because the difference between a home run and basically a bunt is the power and enthusiasm the guy has behind the bat. I can have the right system, the process, right? I can have the right postulates, but if I swing like a wimp, I'm never going to hit the ball far. The same exact thing applies to my finances. If I have the right system in place, the right process I'm following, the right recipe, and I'm thinking the right postulates, but I swing like someone just ran over my dog, I'm not going to succeed financially because I'm never going to go get momentum. I'm going to always have to be dragging myself along through this thing. Okay, I'm here to tell you, like, it takes a level of power and enthusiasm, and power and enthusiasm are manufactured, meaning we produce them. It's not an effect. Like, it's not a, if all the conditions are right, then I can have enthusiasm with my finances. It's a, I need to, so I'm going to cause it. Even if I'm faking it, I'm going to cause it because it has to be there. It has to be there. And again, that'll help when I change my postulates, that whole postulate thing. When that changes, it'll be easier to have better power behind what I'm doing. But again, like, I have to be consciously aware of this. I used to have the mentality that this part wasn't up to me. I had the mentality that if life wasn't going right, then it made sense for me to have low energy. And it made sense for me to be mopey. And it made sense for me to feel bad for myself. And it made sense for me to be dragging my feet. Okay, until I realized that that's not how pros play. You watch in sports all the time, athletes get injured and they make the decision to continue playing with power, and they complete and achieve some of their greatest feats during those moments because of the mental decision they made to say, hey, I'm going to show up with the guns blazing anyways. Okay, so that means that I'm excited about money. That means that I'm eager to be doing my budget. That means that I'm eager to be saving. It means that I'm working hard and I'm actually trying to earn an income. And it means that I'm aggressively looking for investments. And it means that I actually have energy in my step with all of this stuff all the time. And it's not naturally going to be there. That's what I'm saying. You'll wake up just like I do and you'll be like, man, I really don't want to do it today. I have that too. And then I realize, okay, my 5P's aren't in. My power is out. I need to go put my power back in so I can actually make this thing happen. Otherwise, yeah, I will screw up today. Okay, so that's the third P. Fourth one is persistence. Persistence. Persist, to continue trying something over and over and over. Now, persistence is my answer for patience. You'll hear people say like wealth and investing is a game of patience. It's not, okay? Patience is lazy persistence. Patience means that I'm going to not put effort in. I'm just going to wait for things to line up. And if I wait long enough, it'll come along and happen for me. And that's going to be great. And I'm okay with the timing and I trust the process. That's not it. Okay. What's it is, this is the recipe. I'm going to follow the steps. This is the power that I need to have and the activity level I need to have. These are the postulates. I'm going to freaking vibrate at this level, even if I never move. And I'm going to keep doing it until I finally start making progress, because sometimes I have to be active in the same position for a long enough period of time for me to actually get to where I'm trying to go to. Warren Buffett has this great quote. He said, you cannot make a baby happen in 1 month by getting 9 women pregnant. Think about that. Pregnancy takes 9 months. I can't do 9 times and expect it to speed up to 1 month. It's still going to take 9 months. Okay, it doesn't mean that I slow down. It doesn't mean that I stop planning and practicing and all the stuff I need to do to have a baby. It just means it's going to take 9 months. Whether I do all that stuff or not, it's going to take 9 months, right? So when it relates to finances, I have to look at, this is the activity level. I've got to show up ready to play every day. I've got to save 40% of my income. I've got to be investing at 8 to 12%. I've got to be following all of these steps in the process. I have to have the right postulates, and I need to bring enthusiasm and power. And I need to do that every single day for as long as it takes. It takes as long as it takes. Some of us, it's going to be a 5-year game. Boom, we're wealthy. Some of it's a 10-year. Some of us, it's 20 years. It doesn't matter how many years it was. It's did you actually persist? Okay, and it reminds me, in high school, I was in basketball. We had this exercise called guts. Okay, I don't know if you guys have ever run guts. It's kind of like doing Big Tens, like down and backs, except it's a little bit different. There's no set time limit, and there's no set number of times you run down the court. You run until the coach says you can stop. And if you look like you let up your persistence and your power, you don't get to stop. I used to freaking hate guts. What is the worst? Like, I literally would throw up, like, from running so hard. But it tested my level of power and persistence. Was I really going 100%? And was I really going 100% for as long as it took for my coach to say, you did a good job, you can stop now? That's the attitude behind this. Because if I don't do that, then I'm always going to be just this far away. Right. And wealth, I want to just go ahead and hit. It's not a quick thing. This is not get rich quick, guys. This is get rich in the next 10 to 15 years, which sounds quick because the alternative plan that you're being fed is get rich never. Like it's have a mediocre life when you're 60. But we're talking about actually building wealth. If we're actually building wealth, 10 years is not a short amount of time. That's a decade. Think about everything you did in the last 10 years. Imagine if your goal was to be financially free and you did that every single day, 365 days a year for 10 years. That's not a short amount of time. That's 10 years of persistence, meaning I am actively patient. I am waiting for the goal and doing everything humanly possible to get there until I've put in enough time. Back to the brownies thing. Like, it's going to take me still putting in all the ingredients and doing all the stuff and putting the brownies in at the right temperature for the right amount of time until it's done. And if I pull them out early, guess what? They're going to be soggy. It's going to suck. If I leave them in too long, they're going to burn. So it's this active pursuit. It's 10 years. It's 15 years. It's not 3 years. Okay. Sometimes I talk to people and they're like, yeah, I'm going to be there. I want to be at $1 million in the next 24 months. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, bro, you have like a negative $60,000 net worth right now. That's not going to happen unless you literally found a company that just blows up and becomes a national sensation. It's not real. And it's not saying that's negative and you shouldn't apply it and try and do it. I'm saying, like, unless you're about to go do something crazy, that's probably not going to happen. It's probably a 10-year goal, and you need to be willing, and I need to be willing to put in the work for the next 10 years. If I'm not willing to pay the price for the amount of time it's going to take, like, I don't deserve to be there. That was the reality I had. I was looking at this and I was like, man, why? And I'm one of those people that I like new things. So I was like, man, why am I always wanting to jump to the next thing? Right? I love the next thing. It's exciting. I like new stuff. I like new experiences. I like new food. I like new places. But when it comes to certain stuff, like, I just have to sit there and pay the price till it's done. And the next thing will be the next chapter. It's not something I jump to. I have to be willing to persist. That's important. That's the next P. Now, the other one we're going to look at here, guys, is people. Now, this one, I want to be very, very specific. There's two things I want to hit here on people. The first one is, if I don't have this part right, the 5P's we just covered: power, process, postulates, persistence. The fifth one is people. If I don't have this part right, the other four don't matter. Okay, who here has met the married couple where one of them is very goal oriented and very ambitious, and then the spouse is just not interested and doesn't support them and doesn't go to their stuff and doesn't do business with them and doesn't do anything with them? That ambitious spouse is never going to make it. It's people. I have to look at, who am I spending my time with? Because if I'm doing, the right process, and I'm putting in, the persistence, and I have power behind in the postulates, and then I go home and my friends, like, basically rip my spine out, or they talk my dreams down, or not even, they're not even negative. They're just not great people. They want to go watch TV and play Xbox all night. And that doesn't align with where I'm going. If I go associate with them, it doesn't matter how hard I try the other 8 hours of the day. Okay. Now, the other factor on this that I'm going to hit is, it's not their fault. You're not controlled by them. I'm not controlled by them. I'm not controlled by my friends. I'm not controlled by my family. I make the decision if I'm going to spend time with them and if I'm going to do what they do. Okay, there's this group of people in my life that I love them to death. Every time they get together, though, they drink. And I'm like, hey, I don't drink. I'm not going to drink. I'm not interested in it. I don't think less of you because you do. But it just doesn't align with where I'm going, so I don't spend time with you when it happens. Unfortunately, that's most holidays. I just don't go over. But I'm in control of that. I'm saying I don't want to be in that environment because it's not aligning with where I am and who I am and where I'm going. Therefore, I can't be making those my people. My people are the ones that associate and have the characteristics of where I'm going to. So I've got to take a good hard look at that. A lot of us are going to struggle with that one. And the reason being is, the people that we have in our lives, we put there for a reason, or they're related to us. And it's very hard for us to take an objective look at that relationship and say, is this winning for me? Is this person an asset, meaning they're moving me closer to my goal, or are they a liability, meaning they're moving me further away from my goal? And realize there's no middle ground. Unfortunately, it's one or the other. Because if they're truly in the middle where they're not hurting you, but they're not helping you, it means they're dead weight and you're carrying them, which is hurting you. It's hurting me. Like that's the reality of the situation. So I've got to look at who are the people I'm surrounding myself with. What are the conversations I'm having with them? What are the activities that we're doing together? What are the movies we're watching, the music we listen to together, the jokes we tell together, the food we eat together, the activities we pick? If that doesn't align with building wealth and getting to where I want to go with my life and my goals, then those cannot be my people. Doesn't mean I don't love them. It doesn't mean I won't be there if they need something, but it means that I do not socialize and do those things with them because it's not congruent with where I'm going. And it's only going to be frustrating for me and frustrating for them if I go spend half my day doing the right things and then I go spend the other half with them doing the wrong things. And then I'm pissed because I'm not making progress. And then I start to actually blame them. I've been there. Man, it's their fault. If it wasn't for them, I would be here and I'm trying to do all this stuff and they're just dragging me back. Good, then stop going. Stop spending time with them or give up on the goals. Go spend time with them because they're your boys. They're your family. They're your friends. Like you got to pick one or the other. They both aren't going to coincide. So guys, this is so critical to cover. Again, 5P's, we had process. What's the recipe I'm following? Okay, is it proven? Is it something that wealthy people actually did? Is it something that historically actually wins and statistically actually verifies itself? What's my process? Now, on the process, I want to just backtrack a little bit. You have one currently. I have one currently. If I look at and I write down literally all of the stuff I do with my money, that's my current process. And the reason why I point that out is I did that once and I found out I had a very sucky process. My process at one point was not earn very much, don't save anything, spend most of what I make on fast food and luxuries, overpay on rent, have too much car payments going out, and then struggle. That was my recipe for finances at one point. When I objectively looked at what do I literally do with my finances, that was what I was doing. That was my process. So if you want like an eye opener and you're ready to confront that, that's a great exercise to do. Just write down bullet points of what do I actually do with my money and then look at that and realize, wow, that doesn't lead to where I want to go to, right? So process, postulates, we talked about, power, we talked about, persistence, we talked about, right? We're talking about people now. We've got to make sure the people we have in our lives align with where we're going to. So here's the action steps, all right? And if you guys are on Instagram, I want to flip you around really quick so you can see the action steps. There we go. Let me just make sure you guys have a good view of this. Boom. All right, action steps. So first action step on this, guys, get out a pen and paper. This is a written thing. This is not esoteric. It's not a mental exercise. This is a written thing. Okay, I'm going to get out a pen and paper, and I'm going to actually rate myself on a 1 to 10 scale on each of the 5Ps. On a 1 to 10 scale, where am I at on my process? Meaning, is it perfect? Or is it literally non-existent? Or is it somewhere in the middle where I do some of the stuff right and some of the stuff I don't do right? And again, the process is evidenced by what are my current results? What are the levels of progress I'm making? What is the historical validation of how I do things? And what is the statistical validation behind how I do things? That's my process. I'm rating that on a 1 to 10 scale. Same thing with power, okay? What's the level of power that I have behind the actions that I'm taking in my process? I'm rating that on a 1 to 10 scale. Okay, am I freaking hitting home runs and swinging the bat with energy every single time? Am I limp wristed and barely getting anything out? Or am I somewhere in the middle where I'm inconsistent right now? If you think about this stuff, it's very telling. Like this is very, very good stuff to think about. Next is postulates. On a 1 to 10 scale, I'm rating how are my postulates? Okay, where do I rate the level of thought that I have and the decisions that I'm making to then back with action to get the results I'm getting or trying to get? Okay, are they 100% where the things I'm thinking are the things I want? Or is it, man, if I literally ended up with everything I thought, I wouldn't be a very happy person? Or again, is it somewhere in the middle where sometimes I'm thinking the right things and sometimes I'm not, and I'm just not consistent with it? Okay, a lot of us are in that middle ground. Next is persistence. Have I persisted the way that I need to? Like logically speaking, like I said, if this is a 10 to 15 year game and I'm getting worn out and it's only been 18 months, am I really persisting the way that I need to? Because 10 years will happen. Like in 10 years, you will be 10 years older. I will be 10 years older. And the question is did our goals actually happen? Okay. And then the last P here, it says power. Sorry, this is a mistake. This is people, right? People. On a 1 to 10 scale, let me rate the people I'm associating with. And I would rate them based on their 5Ps. What are their processes? What level of power are they bringing to the table? What are their postulates like? What level of persistence do they have? And who are their people? This is who I'm hanging out with based on the answers on this. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm related to them. Doesn't necessarily mean I went to high school with them. Doesn't necessarily mean I even like them right now. It might mean that they're doing things I'm not doing, and because of that, I don't agree with them, and I've got to make sense of that. So I decide to voice that by not liking them. I've had that before. Okay. So select which ones are out. Factually speaking, all 5 of these must be in for me to really make this happen. It can't be an 80% or a 90% thing. I need to be 100% on all of these at all times, which means this is active. It's not a passive thing. It's not a once in a while thing. It's every time I feel like something is wrong, I'm going back to these 5 things and doing a checklist and an inventory and actively fixing them, even if that means I'm thinking about this every 5 minutes. Okay. And then I have to apply myself to those areas and solve them. I apply me as the solution. There's not another solution. The politicians are not the solution. The government is not the solution. Okay, stimulus checks are not the solution. SBA loans are not the solution. Doesn't matter what you think the solution is you. The solution is me. Now, like I said, this is a very active action plan. This is a minute by minute throughout the day. I'm doing this over and over and over and over, and I'm going to repeat steps 1 through 4 over and over and over. I literally do this during my day. I think about like, all right, what's going on right now? Like even on this call, what's going on right now? Is it a good call? I don't know. What's my process? Am I bringing energy, enthusiasm to the table? Am I having the right thoughts right now? Am I thinking this is going to be a good call and a good webinar? What's my level of persistence? Am I wearing out and running out of material and getting tired and I'm only 5 minutes into it? Or am I really going through and saying, man, I'm going to deliver to these people for free for an hour? And then who are the people that I have? Do I have the right people on my webinar? Do I have the right people I'm getting my information from? Like that's all real stuff no matter what situation I'm in. And it's a minute by minute throughout the day, all day, every day for the rest of my life mindset. That's real for me. Okay. Now, this bottom note I put here, this was a realization I have that I want to share with you. Solutions only happen when we extrovert ourselves onto the problem area. Meaning, like I said, I am the solution. It involves me getting up and doing something about it. It doesn't involve me looking inside and extroverting and blaming and all this other stuff. It involves me actually doing something about it. Okay. Like that's important to know. So the solutions, the answers are not found inside. In this case, they are found on my financial statement. It sucks to hear that sometimes. The solutions are found on my financial statement. If I were to look at my financial statement, I would see everything I need to see right there. I would see that I'm earning this much and I'm spending this much and I'm saving this much and I'm investing this much and I have this much in passive income and I spend this much on housing and I pay this much in taxes. Like that's my financial statement. I can't argue with that. Okay, so in this case of improving finances, the solution is found on the financial statement. My financial statement represents the accumulation of my external and consistent behaviors and priorities. Meaning that the things that I have going on financially are the things that I'm consistently doing in real life and the priorities that I consistently have in real life. If I am broke, it's because I am doing things to cause myself to be broke and I have priorities that make me broke. If I'm wealthy, it's because I am doing things consistently to make myself wealthy and I have priorities that are making me wealthy. And it does not go further than that. It does not matter what my skin color is. It doesn't matter my religion, my gender. All of this is up to me. I've got to look at where am I at? What are the thoughts I'm thinking? All this stuff applies on a regular basis to me. Okay, so those are the action steps I want to share tonight. And I'm going to open this up for questions. Let me just spin my Instagram guys around here. What's up, guys? So I want to open this up for questions. And before I do, like, I want to really emphasize that this is really like there's like the theory side of finances, and then there's the practical side of finances. Okay, the practical side is I need to do all of the stuff in the process. I need to follow the blueprint. The theory side is I need to know all this stuff. Because if I know all the right steps and I don't know this stuff, like I'm going to have trouble and I'm not going to be able to identify why I'm having trouble. And it will always go back to this. 100% it will always go back to these 5 things. Okay, so let me open this up for questions really quick. Let me just go to Facebook and my comments here. I'll answer questions on Instagram too. Okay, let's see what we have here on Zoom, if there's any questions on Zoom. I don't see any on Zoom. Awesome. Let's check out Facebook really quick. If you guys have questions, I want you to throw them down in the comments. We will answer them. I always do answer them. Awesome. Let's check out Facebook really quick. If you guys have questions, I want you to throw them down. All right, let me just look at our questions and answers here. So we have, great to see you, Chad. Eric, good to see you. Jordan, good to see you. Cole, great to see you. So Eric Whitaker says, paying yourself first is one of the hardest to overcome, but most gratifying when you learn to do it. Guys, Eric is totally right. Let me share my screen for you guys to see some of these comments. Eric is totally right. Paying yourself first is terrible. Like from an emotional standpoint, it's terrifying. It's not fun. Like it's one of those things where you're like, dang, like I just committed to this. The sacred account is the way we do that for people. And it's one of those things where I'm like, man, I'm actually terrified to do this right now. Brad says, first time he's heard of postulates. Great explanation. Thank you, Thank you, Brad. It's great to see you here. It sounds like Brad and Brian both ran guts as well. They called them killers and suicides. Chad Jones says, people are making me crazy. Chad, it sounds like you might need some new people, man. People shouldn't make you crazy. Eric says, this is a good question. Eric says, if you and your spouse are doing okay with the 5Ps, but in different industries, do you feel there is a struggle that will happen between the two? Not necessarily. So Eric, I would say two things on this. I would say, let me unshare my screen because Facebook is freaking out. I would say there's two things that are going to happen there. I would say that number one, if you guys are on a team, it will go better. Like two couples, like a couple working together as a team is always going to get you further. But the other thing I would say is you don't necessarily have to be in the same industry. Some couples probably should never work together. Like they just don't have the discipline emotionally to not get involved in biting each other's heads off to say, hey, we're being professional right now and we can leave home at home. So it really depends on you and you guys. I would say that you could be successful on either one. And if you're not, like it comes down to, again, the 5Ps. I've got to look at how do I improve those. Okay. Let me see what other questions we have on Facebook. Reggie says scared account is a great idea. Reggie, let's call it the sacred account, not the scared account. I hope it doesn't make you scared. The sacred account is a great idea is what I think he means. Tyler Bogert, great to see you here tonight. Hope you're doing well, man. Let me just check on Zoom to see what questions we have here. And then I want to see what Instagram has before we log off tonight. All right, Zoom, we have some questions. So first question we have, Marcy says, how to get your spouse to increase their P scores. I was going to say something immature there, but I won't say anything. I was going to say P scores like a drug test, but never mind. So the P scores, that would be something like really they have to be aware of. So I would maybe like, you never want to go to anyone, including your spouse, but this would apply to anyone. You never want to go to anyone and be like, hey, there's this thing called the 5Ps and you're not where I'm at, or you're not doing well, or you're low on 3 of them and we need to get your scores up. It really comes through education. Okay. And it really comes through them being educated enough to make the decision because they understand what those things mean in relation to their goals. And then they start improving themselves. Okay, again, it's an awareness thing. Some people are at a very different awareness level than others. It doesn't make those that have a lower awareness level on the stuff wrong. It just means they haven't got there yet, right? So like if let's say Lexi's P's were lower than mine, and they're not, but let's say they were, and I was thinking about how I could help her. The first thing I would do is I would be encouraging her to study and get education on finances. Okay, like I would be looking at, okay, what books can I put in front of her? And that's going to tell me, is she willing? Does she actually want to learn about this stuff, right? If she's willing to read books, she's willing to learn, that tells me everything I need to know. I can help someone that's willing. I can't help someone that's unwilling. So I'm going to give her some books, some material to read. I might get her on Wealth Dynamics University or get her tuning in on the webinars. And that way the gears can start turning. And then I would, at a gradient, work up to like the basics of, hey, like budgeting and income and saving and investing and all the basic stuff out there. And at a certain point, I would introduce this concept. And at the right moment, the person would have the realization of, shoot, where am I at on those? Like if I were to grade myself on the 5Ps, where am I at today? And am I at where I want to be at? And if I'm not, what do I need to do to get there? And at that point, they would probably reach for help. They would be like, hey, Jerry, I realized that my persistence is not where I would like it to be. I watched that video. I don't know. What do we do there? What are you doing? How can I improve it? Is there more books I can read? Is there something? And that's where they're willing. And then I can start to help them. I don't want to invalidate them and I don't want to evaluate them, meaning I don't want to make them wrong and I don't want to tell them what they need to think. They need to come to that conclusion themselves. Okay. So that really is the focus that I would have in that situation. Nano says, question on Facebook from Richard Jessup. Best way to bring attention on this way of thinking for others? That's a good question. So Richard, I would say along to what I said with Marcy, just education. As a business owner, and Richard is, the best way I can do it is by being the example. Like it being the example and then explaining what I'm doing and why. Because I always have an audience. If I'm a business owner, if I'm a parent, if I'm a coworker or an employee and I've got other people working with me, they're going to see that I act differently and I have different stuff. And that really is like my focus and my energy level. And then they're going to at some point be watching and I can explain like, hey, this is why I do this. This is the mindset behind this, this, and this. And it's really easy. Like, that's why I love that I came up with the 5Ps, because it actually gives them something concrete. Because before, like, I would get like these really like coachy kind of phrases like, man, just keep your attitude up and work harder. And it's kind of like very indefinite solutions. And so the 5Ps is like, hey, there's these 5 things. If you rate yourself and continue to improve on these 5 things, your life will get better. Right. And that's what I love about it. I like giving that concrete, here's what we've got going on. Let me see what else we have here on Facebook. I'm not seeing anything else on Facebook for questions. Let me check out Instagram really quick. Polar Properties, good to see you. So he says, what's the biggest mistake that I made in my 20s? I'm 24. So I'm 27, so I'm not that far past you. I would say that the biggest mistake that I made in my 20s was following the wrong advice for too long. And what I mean by that is following the Dave Ramsey and the financial advisor stuff and doing all that. It had its benefit for like maybe the first year when I literally knew nothing about money, but it outlived itself in the sense that that was no longer helpful and I was still trying to make it work, right? So that's what I would say there. Can we do a quick live to share my PPP with you and your audience? I don't know what a PPP is, so I don't think I'm going to share that right now, but I appreciate you asking. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and log off. I'm about to run out of time here on Instagram. Thank you so much for watching. Let me go ahead and wrap this up. For those of you on Facebook, please share. Make sure you check out more of my content. We're here with you every week. And I'm excited for next week, so make sure you stay tuned. And I will talk to you all next week. Make sure you guys are implementing this stuff. Real quick, before I sign out, if you do have questions on this, hit me up in the comments, the direct messages. You can always email me. If you've got my number, call or text me. I'm always available. Thank you so much. Have a great day. I'll talk to y'all soon.